Happening now on Grid Tonight, Sam Mayer got suspended from this weekend's NASCAR Xfinity Series season finale at Phoenix Raceway. Was the suspension justified after what he did to Jeb Burton after the race at Martinsville? Jesse Love will race in Super 2 at Adelaide. How will the Xfinity Series regular perform down under? Jak Crawford will be Aston Martin's reserve driver next year in Formula One. Will he get promoted to a race seat in 2027 or suffer the same fate as Felipe Drugovich? Hello to all of our viewers watching here in the United States and around the world. Welcome to Grid Tonight, your weekly motorsports news program. I'm Kobe Lamb, and with me are Joshua Birch from JB Motorsports. Welcome back, Josh, and Matt White from Grid Endurance Performance Index. We encourage everyone to interact with us in the chat, support us through Super Chat, and visit Grid Network TV.com for our latest content. And we have a significant amount of news to talk about tonight. It's that time of year again, silly season in full force all across motorsports, where we're getting announcements left and right. So Josh, I'll let you kick it off because we have a packed show.
We really, really do. Nice to be back, boys. Thanks for letting me have the week off while I went and met the in-laws. But here we go. Time to get going. So let's dive straight into the controversy, shall we? Because after clashing with Jeb Burton last Saturday night at Martinsville Speedway, NASCAR has suspended Haas factory team driver Sam Mayer from this weekend's Xfinity Series season finale at Phoenix Raceway. Now, both drivers raced each other super aggressively during the round of 8 elimination race, and Mayer decided to do something about it on the cool-down lap after the checkered flag. Now, the race was over, but Mayer drove deep into turn 1 and intentionally wrecked Burton. We didn't see Burton go after Mayer on pit road after the race, but Burton's team owner, Jordan Anderson, confronted him because he was upset over his car getting wrecked. In Mayer's post-race interview with the CW, he expressed regret for what he did to Anderson's equipment, since he respects the team owner as one of the hardest working guys in the garage. Now, however, Mayer ripped Burton's on-track etiquette for not racing playoff drivers with more respect and called him out for causing a multi-car wreck the previous week at Talladega that resulted in Mayer's number 41 Ford crashing out of the race. Now, this has put Mayer in a tough position points-wise and needs to win to make the championship 4. Now, whilst he finished 7th at Martinsville, it wasn't enough to advance, so he continued to air out his frustration on Burton in his profanity-laced post-race interview, in which he acknowledged that he was probably going to get in trouble. Now, he ended his interview by saying that Burton needs a wake-up call because that brother doesn't have the it factor. He has the different factor. The photo taken by David Jensen from Getty Images as well. Matt, what a strange topic. Very similar to Logano and Kenseth all those years ago, once again here at Martinsville. But did NASCAR make the right call to suspend Sam Mayer for intentionally wrecking Jeb Burton after the checker flag? And for Mayer, who previously expressed frustration over Cup Series owners not being interested in him, did he prove why by his actions at Martinsville? Good evening.
Oh, good evening to you, Josh. Hello, Kobe. Hello, everybody. Get your comments in on this because I'm sure this is a hot topic for people with opinions, and I know some of them are watching because they've already messaged me to say I'm watching. Sam Mayer, up and coming throughout the last couple of years, was on a bit of an upward trajectory, lost a good ride, and now finds himself having to sit out a race because he'd been a very naughty boy. And that's probably why Cup teams aren't looking his way. We should be going into the championship weekend excited about, 3 champions about to be crowned this weekend in Trucks, Xfinity and Cup. But this is obviously headline news for us on the show tonight, which is a bit of a shame because it was silly, really silly. He went in with that must-win position that Sam was in, only finished 7th, as you said, Josh, so he was obviously out, and just happened to cross the line with Jeb in front of him there, coming across under the checkered flag, and decided, well, I may as well just keep the right foot planted, I guess. And yeah, a bit like the Kenseth and Logano thing all those years ago, in the same corner at the same racetrack, turn 1, piled him into the concrete wall after the race had finished. We're going to talk about unnecessary accidents again, I fear, later in the show when we get to Hots and Knots. They be on 2 wheels, but this one was fairly blatant and completely unnecessary. And the post-race interview that he did with Kim Coon, he kind of checked himself. He was going to say something, and he stopped. He went, "Oh no, I'm going to go. I'm just going to go. I'm going to unfurl this and just let it all out to the world. And yeah, not a good look. And sour grapes. Clearly, I know he was obviously very unhappy with what happened at Talladega last week, as I'm sure a lot of people were. Be they drivers, be they spotters, be they crew chiefs, be they team owners, be they mechanics, because they've got to fix a lot of broken cars from Talladega last week after that big crash coming through the tri-oval in which Sam was involved in. It's just not a good look. And the Xfinity Series, the Cup race at Martinsville in the next cut-off, the last year was controversial because we had the Christopher Bell thing on the last lap and the manufacturer team order stuff going on. Of course, a couple of years before we had the Ross Chastain thing. But the Xfinity Martinsville cut-off races have been absolute clown shows every single year. That this has been the last race before the championship weekend, and it continues to be so. And it's just not a good look for the series.
Really isn't, is it? And Tyler says, hi guys, great to see you. Great to see you too, Tyler. Welcome in as well. Hopefully everyone's getting set then. Crystal says, how is it controversial that he got suspended? NASCAR has been clear about the fact that using your car as a weapon after the race is out of line. I suppose it's not really controversial. It's what happened, wasn't it?
Yeah. It's the incident is controversial, not the actions taken by NASCAR, which is absolutely the right call, because monetary doesn't do anything to people nowadays unless it's a massive fine, and obviously there's no points to dock because this is the system we play our game in. So hello, Ben. There he is. Thank you. That's right on cue. That was a top 3 all-time terrible interview Mayer gave on the CW. Yeah, absolutely was. I've just watched it before we came on the show because I haven't quite caught up with it, although I've seen comments on social media all week. But yeah, just off the scale, awful.
Denver says Sam Mayer is doing his best Austin Hill impression. What is going on in the Xfinity Series? I always thought it bred future Cup champions, not dumb idiots. Seems to be a couple of them around this year, doesn't it, as well, in the Xfinity Series, as you mentioned.
Names are made here. Is that the tagline that's been in the Xfinity Series the last few years? Yeah, not for the good reasons, though. We've had a few, obviously, with Zilich and the like doing a lot of winning and things over the last couple of years, which we perhaps will get to, if not later, then certainly next week if things go awry at the weekend. Just not a good look. I won't say everything's made up, but in a way, you can't deny the points don't matter. Indeed so.
He did, yeah. Well, I'm surprised Encore wasn't like a balloon going up. We saw the show that got posted.
If we're trailing forward, if things happen at the weekend that people don't like, then Ben and Brandon will be all over it on Monday. Yeah, we'll all be watching from behind. I've got a cushion here.
See no evil, speak no evil.
Yeah, indeed. So Adam agrees with the Sam Mayer suspension. Yeah. I think we're all in agreement that the suspension is the right call.
Definitely the right call. Absolutely 100% the right call. And this is what Haas factory team statement was put out as well to this effect. Although we are disappointed with the results, Haas factory team will not appeal the penalty NASCAR issued to Sam Mayer and the number 41 team following last weekend's race at Martinsville Speedway. We remain focused on finishing the season out strong at Phoenix Raceway and look forward to contending for a race win with Ryan Sieg at the wheel. Now, this is a massive opportunity for Ryan Sieg, who's been driving for his family-owned RSS racing team in the Xfinity Series for the past decade. Sieg's team has an alliance with Haas factory team, so choosing him to drive the number 41 Ford for Phoenix makes sense. Sieg has 23 career top 5s and 5 second-place finishes in his Xfinity Series career. Now, although his team has never had the same budget as a Cup Series organization, he's always been viewed as one of the biggest underdogs in the garage, who outperforms his equipment. He was so close to his first career win last year at Texas Motor Speedway, but barely lost in an epic photo finish, ironically, to Sam Mayer, who he's replacing this weekend. Now, looking at this year's Phoenix Spring Race in the Xfinity Series, Sieg finished 4th in his own equipment. Now, he's getting in a more superior car that's capable of winning the race. Actually, the number 41 team is the same number 98 team that won last year's season finale at Phoenix with Riley Herbst. So behind the wheel. So graphic courtesy there of Haas factory team. And Matt, my bounce back question to you is, can Ryan Sieg make the most of the biggest opportunities he's ever had in NASCAR career and compete for the victory?
Well, definitely from the stats you just rolled out there, Josh. Yeah, I mean, he's clearly good at this racetrack. The team is clearly good at this racetrack because, as you said, they won the race last year with Riley. And it's a great opportunity. It's great to see one of these guys, the NASCAR version of the Garage Easter, to borrow a Formula One term from back in the day, that, you know, carry on, do their own thing. Jordan Anderson is another kind of in that kind of club that we talked about, of course, with Jeb, in that kind of group, that they do their own thing and they go for the love of it, and etc. etc. And now Ryan's got a chance up in one of the big teams to go for a victory. And of course, there's going to be the bonus points battle going on at the weekend and the championship race as well. And there could be a 41 car in the middle of it all with a standing driver trying to win the race and perhaps vault himself into a ride for next year, even if it might be on a part-time schedule, or of course bring some more funding back his own way with his own team. So plenty of opportunities for Ryan Sieg coming up this weekend going forward, and best of luck to him, because as you say, this is a really great opportunity for him to do something special.
And I can see Ryan Sieg getting a top 5 finish on Saturday in Phoenix, says Adam as well. Keep your comments coming through. We'll get to them during the show. Denver says NASCAR needs to start getting harsher in the suspensions, especially in the Xfinity Series. They do, don't they? They need to sort of pick themselves up. There's been a couple of instances this year, Austin, where it's been really difficult.
Yeah, the thing is, you can't. I don't think you can roll. A bit like Jenson Button's grid penalty that he'll never get to serve in Formula One. You can't roll, because it's his last race at Fuji ever next weekend.
Sure.
You can't roll suspensions into next. I don't think you can roll suspensions into next season, especially with people changing team. I don't think that, you know, I don't know if that makes any difference really, but I don't feel like and because it's the second to last race, of course, that makes a difference in that category as well. But yes, they do need to start hitting people harder with the big stick from race control and race direction about things that are happening, because as we've seen with other forms of the sport, it rolls down to the junior categories because they think it's okay. It's not okay. To use a last leg line, it's not okay.
The last leg. Are we really going to that at 9:56? The 51 teams tire suspension is going into next season. That is true, yeah, for Daytona, isn't it? Yeah, because that still classifies as the 2 races, so it's different to be as a driver suspension in case it does compared to a team suspension. Okay, so sticking with NASCAR and the Xfinity Series, because NASCAR Xfinity Series driver Jesse Love will make his debut in the Dunlop Super2 Series in the season finale on the streets of Adelaide. Love is set to drive the number 57 Holden Commodore for Image Racing, with sponsorship from V-Line Engineering. Now, before debuting in the Super 2, their version of the Xfinity Series, Love will do some testing in the Super 2 car before racing at Adelaide. Now, the plan is for him to get behind the wheel of an Erebus-built Holden and do a full day of testing at the Mala Motorsport Park. Team owner Terry Ruhan explained this deal came together because he's friends with Love's team owner Richard Childress, and while he knows Love isn't going to win the race, he believes that the RCR driver might surprise a few people. The graphic courtesy of Image Racing. I think that's a great idea. It's what we need, isn't it? And Kobe's back with us for this segment as well. I'll throw back to him straight away. How cool is it to see Jesse Love, one of the top drivers in the Xfinity Series, heading to Adelaide to compete in Super 2?
I think it's a great thing that we have a second NASCAR driver going to Adelaide. You remember several weeks ago we talked about Austin Cindric. He's going to be in the main game, though, driving a wild card entry with Tickford Racing and one of their Ford Mustangs. It's going to be really cool to see Austin in supercars and see how he gets along compared to, you know, his teammates Cam Waters and Thomas Randall. But in Super 2, Jesse Love, I think this will be a great experience for him to, you know, go to a new country, a new series, a new style of racing, and try to get up to speed and see how you get along with their regulars. And as you mentioned, Josh, Super 2 is the supercars equivalent of the NASCAR Xfinity Series. So it won't be as, you know, daunting of a challenge as it would be going straight into supercars like Austin Cindric is doing. But Jesse Love, I think this will be a fun opportunity, and I hope it goes well. I'm glad to hear that he's going to get a full test day in, you know, to get used to the Super 2 machine and see and really understand how that car works, because it's obviously much different from anything he's ever driven. It's different from the Cup car, it's different from the Xfinity car, and also, you know, different from the ARCA car and, you know, the truck that he's driven in the past. And I was reading the press release, you know, from this announcement. They were saying that they originally wanted to go to the Bend Motorsport Park and test with him, but they figured that this other track that tested him that you mentioned, Josh, that they thought that, you know, it had more space and that would give him, you know, more of an opportunity to learn the car. But, you know, we've seen Jesse, you know, do extremely well in NASCAR, obviously. So I think that he'll go into this test and, you know, do well and then go to Adelaide and be as competitive as he can possibly be. And yeah, winning on your debut, you know, might be a really tall order. But if he can go out there, you know, just run mid-pack and be competitive, I think that'll be really good for Jesse. I think it's cool that, you know, you have a couple of NASCAR drivers going down under, and I was reading some, you know, some articles in Australian motorsport media, and they're saying that Supercars would like to make this an annual thing where the best in NASCAR, you know, come over to Adelaide every year for the finale, and they hope to have, you know, a driver represent each manufacturer in the Supercars race at the Adelaide Grand Final, you know, since the same 3 manufacturers in NASCAR, now the 3 same manufacturers in Supercars. So Supercars, ideally, they would love to see one driver representing Chevrolet, one representing Ford, and then one representing Toyota. So that's the ultimate dream for Supercars, to have, you know, NASCAR drivers coming down to Adelaide, you know, become a tradition in the future.
I also think, from what I've heard, we're going to see Austin Cindric embedded in the team for Sandown, which is the round before. He's going to go down, do the round as a spectator within the garage, and then come back and go back again for Adelaide. Great to see Jesse Love going and doing some more road course racing, which of course will benefit him when he comes back to the Xfinity Series again next year. Of course, it's a street track. Good for, I was going to say good for Chicago, but okay, I guess good for San Diego, as we talked about that on the show again last week. Yeah, good. I mean, Image Racing are a great team. I never thought we'd be talking about Mallala Motorsport Park on grid tonight, but here we are. And also the livery. If Kobe can flash the livery back up again, I mean, it looks great on the Xfinity car, and it has done all year. But looking at that, you know, the Spider-Man meme where he puts the glasses on. That's what I've had to keep doing, looking at that, because I did not ever feel I'd see a Whelen livery on a supercar. It just boggles my mind. But here we are, and best of luck to Jesse, because they don't play in the Dunlop Series. The phrase "they've gone full Super 2" is there for a reason, because much like Xfinity races at Martinsville, it does kick off from time to time, and he might find himself in the thick of things down there. And of course, there's a championship battle to go at in Super 2. That will go down to Adelaide as well. So hopefully he doesn't find himself getting in the way of the championship contenders at Adelaide in a couple of weeks' time. But yeah, really looking forward to seeing what Jesse and Austin can do, both of them, in that trip down under. When is that? Next month?
Yep, next month, Adelaide. I'm going to look forward to that one. Love Jesse Love's car for Adelaide, and can't wait to see how he does. That took me out for a second as well. It was like a James Bond quote. Jesse Love will be welcomed by Adelaide fans. It shows that drivers from NASCAR is finally realizing that they need to catch up with SVG and supercars. It's a great way to learn right foot braking style. I'll go to you on this one, Matt. Is that the best way that they're doing? Is that what they're having to do to catch up with SVG? Go over there and practice proper road racing? Surely
there'd be a closer, more cost-effective alternative to do something in the States rather than fly halfway around the world and do it, but each their own, I suppose.
Yeah, IMSA. Go IMSA. That might do something in the GT class. Yeah.
GT4.
Come on. GT4.
In Pilot Challenge or whatever it's called nowadays. Something like that would be good. We've seen, haven't we, over the last few years, some people like NASCAR, Ford NASCAR people run the Pilot Challenge race at Daytona at the Rolex in previous years. I seem to remember Hailie Deegan doing that a few years back. So that could be something else that could work in their favour.
Got a lot of points coming back in, haven't they, between them all as well. I love the Mallala Motorsport Park. Supercars used to race there back in the day. I'll go to my Supercars expert on that one. Oh, was it a good circuit?
Before they started going to Adelaide, so in the 90s, that was the South Australia track for the state, really. And now we've got the Bend and, of course, going to Adelaide from 99 onwards.
Adelaide is the better circuit, just saying. Love Adelaide.
Yeah.
Wish Formula E would wake up and go there. I really do.
Best street track in the world for me.
Well, we've been covering Formula E, and we've spoken to Jeff Dodds and Alejandro as well. We should really see with Alfonso and ask as well, are we going to Adelaide? Is that an Australian race? I'll message up to Pico and Giamano and see what we can do. And I'll report back as we're, of course, in the middle of the Formula E testing at Valencia. Right, it's kind of Formula E related, this question as well, because it is about a former Aston Martin reserve driver being replaced by a new one. Because the Aston Martin Racing F1 team has announced that American Formula 2 driver Jak Crawford will be their third driver for 2026. Now, in this role, Crawford will serve as the reserve driver for all F1 races next year. This means if Fernando Alonso or Lance Stroll can't compete during a race weekend, Crawford would step up to race the Aston Martin F1 car in their place. Now, since becoming an Aston Martin F1 development driver last year, Crawford has competed more than 2,000 kilometres in an F1 car, and he's made FP1 debut last weekend at Mexico City. Now, during the 2025 season, he's been working closely with Aston Martin in the simulator to provide valuable technical feedback that he supported this year's program and next year's car ahead of the new regulations. Now, Crawford is also competing in his third F2 season, driving for Dams Lucas Oil. He's currently second in the standings and in 19 points Leonardo Forlorelli with 2 race weekends remaining in Qatar and Abu Dhabi. Now, while it's certainly a positive that Crawford is receiving a promotion after his F2 stint, and let's remember that the 2022 F2 champion Felipe Drugovich held this role for the last few years and never got an opportunity to race in F1. Now, Drugovich is in Formula E with Andretti and has seemingly moved on from his Formula 1 ambitions. However, Crawford said that this is a huge moment in his career and the promotion to third driver is a big motivation for him to keep learning and contributing to the team, photo courtesy of Aston Martin Racing F1. Matt, throwing you back to you on this question as well. Is Crawford really on the path to becoming an F1 driver in 2027, or do you fear he'll face a similar situation as Felipe Drugovich, who has been going really well over in Valencia, I can tell you?
Well, there's got lots of questions about Aston Martin's Formula One driver roster in the future, isn't there? And we've mentioned this a few times during the season, because Fernando Alonso will go until he's 97 and a half in car number 1. How long will they stick with Lance Stroll? Is the Honda tie-up going to change things? And we are, I guess, over the next couple of weeks going to find out what Red Bull do with Yuki and other drivers in all of their seats. So that's going to be interesting. But Crawford is, in championship contention in Formula 2. So he's of a good standard. And of course, the Formula 2 champion can't go back and defend. So if he does end up winning the championship, that would be the end of his run in Formula 2. He's been a great team at Dams. They've always been solid. So they ran Nick Latifi for pretty much all of his F2 stint before he stepped up to Formula 1. So, yeah, great. And then as we've talked a lot about with Colton Herta over the last few weeks, getting a Formula 1 driver on the grid, an American Formula 1 driver on the grid. You've got the Herta thing coming in from this direction, with IndyCar going to F2. There's also Jak Crawford over here going, hello, I'm a race winner in Formula 2 already. Please put me in your car. So, but, there's let's face it, and we don't wish this to happen, but there's a chance that Lance Stroll could have an incident in a practice session and hurt himself. He's done some things over the last couple of years. Brazil last year, namely, and we go to Brazil, of course, next, where he's just been a bit silly. So there's a good chance that Jak could find himself in a bit of an Ollie Bearman style Jeddah role when he's filled in for Carlos Sainz, of course, last year, catapulted into a seat. And then, the world's his oyster, because if he gets in and does a great job, we saw what happened to Ollie Bearman with that Ferrari run. It gets him a full-time Formula 1 ride. I'm sure more on Ollie Bearman later. Kobe, what do you think about Jak Crawford?
Well, Matt, you know what the American dream would be? I say we always dream of having one F1 driver on the grid. I know we've had that, a few times. The last full-time American F1 driver was Logan Sargent, but like you mentioned, we always talk about Colton Herta, and since he's now officially on the road to F1, driving for High Tech Grand Prix next year in Formula 2, like we hope that he'll be on the grid in 2027, as the next American F1 driver. But the American dream, could you imagine not having one, but two American Formula 1 drivers on the grid? That would be the ultimate American dream for a racing fan over here stateside. It would be so awesome to have Colton Herta and Jak Crawford on the Formula 1 grid full-time, with Crawford, with Aston Martin, and Colton Herta getting a promotion up to Cadillac F1. That would just be remarkable if we had two Americans racing in the pinnacle of motorsport. But Jak Crawford, has been really nice to follow his career the last few seasons in Formula 2. This is his third year in the series. First year was really, just a learning year. It, didn't, you saw some flashes of brilliance, but, for the most part, you could tell he was a rookie, just learning the ropes. Then year 2, massive improvement. And then now year 3, he is a championship contender. And if Leonardo Fornaroli, falters down the stretch, in Qatar and Abu Dhabi, and Crawford, keeps it right, he could very well be this year's Formula 2 champion, which would mean he would not be able to return to the series anyways. So I think that Jak Crawford has proved that if given the opportunity, he can be a Formula 1 driver. But, as I've been saying, will he ever get the opportunity? And Josh mentioned, in preseason testing, Felipe Drugovich is doing a really great job for Andretti, that TWG Motorsports operation. And he's just showing, that he should have gotten an opportunity in Formula 1, but the Aston Martin Formula 1 driver line, the current lineup is, I don't want to say frustrating, but it feels like they're holding, a lot of young drivers back, like Felipe Drugovich and Jak Crawford, from making their mark in Formula 1. I still believe that it's a shame that Felipe Drugovich, hasn't got an opportunity to race in F1 because Fernando Alonso is still holding on to his F1 career, a couple of decades into it. And then, Lance Stroll has been around, for a while now, and as long as his father, Lawrence Stroll, continues to own the Aston Martin F1 team, Lance Stroll will have an F1 seat for as long as he wants it. So it's going to be up to Lance when he decides that he doesn't want to race in F1 anymore. So if you have Stroll, who doesn't seem to be going anywhere anytime soon, and if the team doesn't want to cut loose of Fernando Alonso, it really seems like Jak Crawford could be stuck. But Matt, you bring up a good point about Lance Stroll and his, odd injuries in the last few years or so. So maybe Lance might miss some time next year or whatever. And then maybe Jak Crawford will be able to get the promotion and go up to Formula 1, for a race or two. That'd be great for Jak. Obviously, don't wish any, ill will on Lance Stroll or Fernando Alonso. But I think Jak Crawford, if given opportunity, he'll be ready to be a Formula 1 driver. And I'm happy that he's, get this so-called third driver role at Aston Martin. And my hope for him is that, it won't be a Felipe Drugovich situation. I fear it could be a Felipe situation, but I'm really hopeful that, that the timing is going to be right, because we've seen time and time again in Formula 1, whether or not you get an opportunity, it comes down to timing. And for Jak Crawford, hopefully it'll be perfect timing. And for Felipe Drugovich, it just wasn't the right time. So maybe we'll see Alonso retire, at the end of 2026, or maybe, Lance Stroll decide that he wants to. I know we keep saying this, and bringing up this point about Lance Stroll, but maybe he'll want to go race for the Aston Martin hypercar team, with the heart of racing. Yeah, since we know Lance does love sports car racing, since he's, contested the Rolex 24 a few times in the past. But all in all, really hope Jak Crawford will be able to get his time to shine. And my hope is we have 2 American F1 drivers on the grid in 2027, Colton Herta, Jak Crawford, because you'll see the red, white, and blue flying all over the place.
Well, on that, and double back to a conversation me, Kobe, and Joe had last week on the show, perhaps 2 Formula 1 drivers from the States, 3 Grand Prix in the US, 1, and I call them a half team, in Haas and Cadillac, Mexico nearby as a Grand Prix, Canada nearby as a Grand Prix. And nobody will see it because it's on Apple TV.
Oh, cruel. Very cruel. Well, the place to see it.
Look,
all I'm going to say is, the place to see it.
Yeah,
JB Motorsports. Yeah, that's the place. And we're going to have more things next year as well, so stay tuned. I've already had some ideas. Yeah. Well, NASCAR's booming with our coverage right now, boys. Well done, by the way, to you, Matt, and the team. Great coverage over the weekend and the week before. Ratings have been really strong. I think I got told it's something like 75,000 people over the 2 weeks I've listened to you boys do it. So great job. 2 words, Lance Stroll, says Ben. Yeah. 2024 Brazil alone, Bruce Stroll shouldn't be on the grid anymore. To this day, I think back about the stupidest moments of my life. None of them add up to what Lance Stroll did in Sao Paulo last year. Ever. That was how bad it was. So yeah, not bad. Not bad at all. Formula in Adelaide, I'm game. It's about time. I'll broach that tomorrow, because I think there was a round table with Jeff Dodds that you can hear tomorrow in the coverage that I've got on. So I see that got discussed, but certainly I'll prod it on and keep pushing, because Formula E in Australia is a must. Plot twist, says Ben. William Byron wins the championship on Sunday and again in 2026, gets to 40 SL points and GM super license, and GM puts him in the second Cadillac seat alongside Herb 27, 3 American drivers. As much as I like William Byron, I don't think he is a Formula One driver at all. Is that too harsh to say? Then again, look, Kyle Larson, I didn't put him down as an IndyCar driver, and he did quite well in Indy. So I'll take my breath away.
We're going to do Super League Formula either, did we? But here that's happening.
All right, Byron, then let's go over. It's short here. So saying there's another vacant reserve spot at Aston Martin because Van Dorn also left the team. Who do you think they will put him as well? Who do you think they'll put in?
It's more of a sim driver role, isn't it? I think that Van Dorn's been kind of.
Where does Yuki go? You know, given you think maybe there'll be a Yuki role, since it doesn't look like he has a spot for him in F1 next year?
I think so. I think that's really harsh on Yuki, but it's not Yuki's fault what's happened at second Red Bull. But I then think back to his time at Racing Bulls. Has he ever really performed that well? There's been a couple of flashes, hasn't there? But he's not done what Lawson or Hadjar's done in this season. I think. Yeah, go on, Cubby.
Oh, I was saying I don't know what the silly season lineup looks like over in Super Formula. I know we've seen a few announcements been made. Namely, Kale Rovanperä is going to be over there next year with Toyota. You saw him test the Formula 2 car earlier this week. I believe it was at Jerez. It was at Jerez. Yeah, so Kale getting a great opportunity there. So I don't know what Honda's lineup's looking like in Super Formula, but I do wonder, if that could be the next best thing for Yuki to stay in something next year if he's not getting an F1 role. Since I know I've always said I want to see Yuki in an Indy car full time, since Honda's kind of been looking for the next Takuma Sato stateside, and I think it would be cool to see Yuki drive an Indy car since he was able to test it. Last year, when Honda had an event out for the Las Vegas Grand Prix, I think IndyCar would be a really good home for Yuki, but we know there's not hardly any seats left in the IndyCar series unless something crazy happens.
Wait, something will always crazy happen. I mean, it's IndyCar. Something always goes wrong. So let's. My boy is also a possibility. Yeah, although he's now in their program. My boy is in their program. There's a couple coming up from F2 that I've got my eye on with it all. I think Omi would be the right person to ask to see who he would see who to put in there as well. He's got all the information that we haven't. So let's get on to our hot topic of tonight, because Carlo Racing has announced that Daniel Dye and Justin Haley will join its new RAM program for the 2026 NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series season. Now, Dye and Haley joined 2025 ARCA Menard Series champion Brendan Butterbean Queen in the Carlo RAM program, which now has 3 confirmed drivers and is planned 5 full-time entries. For Dye, returning to the Truck Series with RAM is really special because the brand has been a huge part of his life, from riding in his dad's Ram pickup truck as a kid to getting his driver's license, with his first vehicle being a Ram 1500 truck. Now, we've talked a lot about Haley on our show in recent weeks, from losing his Cup Series ride with Spire Motorsports to being replaced by Daniel Suarez. Now, Haley is returning to his former team in Kalug and will have a chance to become a veteran team leader in the Ram Truck program. Haley called it a privilege to race for Kalug again and excited to return to a place surrounded by people who believed in him during his early stages of his NASCAR career. This also gives Haley a chance to reset his career like John Hunt Nemechek did a few years ago. Remember, Nemechek moved up to the Cup Series with Frontline Motorsports in 2020, and his rookie year didn't go well outside of a few good finishes. As a result, he moved back down to the Truck Series for the 21 and 2022 seasons, with Kyle Busch Motorsports before moving to the Xfinity Series with Jokers Racing in 2023. Then he made his full-time return to the Cup Series in 2024 with Legacy Motorsport Club. Better prepared for the top level of stock car racing, Carlo CEO Chris Rice went on Sirius XM NASCAR Radio to announce that they'll be pausing for their Xfinity Series program for the 2026 season. Rice got emotional over the decision because Kaulig has become a staple in Xfinity since that's where the team got its start. But he also knows it's the right call to pause for now, since they need to get the RAM program in the Truck Series to a good place and keep their Cup Series program in focus. Graphic courtesy of Kaulig Racing. Sorry about that pause. My screen was jumping up and down with the script. It was quite hard to see where was where. But Matt, how strange will it be not to see Kaulig in the Xfinity Series next year, which becomes the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series? And do you see Haley working his way back up to the Cup Series like Nemechek did?
I think that's probably the Justin's hope, that this is a bit of a reset, much like JHN, because it did certainly work out for him. I mean, we talked about this last week before, when the Suarez news was announced. It's all rolled into one the last couple of weeks, about where would Justin Haley go, and we all kind of, people in the comments and us on the show, kind of were all in agreement that he won't go to Kaulig because they're full. Here comes the announcement that Kaulig Racing has signed Justin Haley. So we were wrong. But it's going to be a shame to not see them in the Grand National Series, because Haley was there for a long time, along with AJ Allmendinger, of course, sporadically, and they were one of the big teams in that kind of era a few years back when I was watching pretty much every week at that point, and they were, championship contention and winning races and whatnot. Before that, kind of one of those sort of middle order teams when they kind of came in a few years back. They built themselves up, and of course they've gone Cup racing. And now with the Dodge Ram tie-up, it might be a good chance for Justin Haley to reset. And now with a new manufacturer coming in who have clearly got some ambition here to go into this series here at some stage. He can get with a manufacturer and grab a hold and take him all the way back to the top again. And it obviously it'll be good for the team to have him back, because they've all worked together before, and it's some good experience with this new truck, which is going to take some time. I'm sure we're not going to see them all running right at the front and winning races early on. You would feel like in the Truck Series when we get back going again in February. So they've got an experience, not fully, masses of experience, but a semi-experienced hand there in Justin Haley to kind of steer the development of this new program, which is kind of what they were lacking a little bit before this announcement was made.
Now, we also want to acknowledge that Marco Andretti has announced his retirement from racing. From 2006 throughout to 2020, Andretti raced full-time in the NTT IndyCar Series, making 253 career starts until his last one in this year's Indianapolis 500. Then he did a one-off race in the Indy 500 from 2021 through 2025, and towards the end of his racing career, he tried out stock car racing by competing in the ARCA Menard Series, NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, NASCAR Xfinity Series, and even won a title in the SRX Series. He won 2 IndyCar races, Sonoma in 2006 and Iowa in 2011, and when Andretti burst onto the scene in 2006, his first Indy 500 ended dramatically after leading on the front stretch coming into the checkered flag and getting past the win by Sam Hornish Jr. at the very last second. Now, Andretti was never able to break the infamous Andretti curse at the Speedway, but he had several opportunities to win the greatest spectacle in racing over the years and won the pole in 2020. Throughout the day, though, Andretti has been posting videos sent to him by many of his friends and peers in the IndyCar paddock. While Andretti didn't win many races or championships during his IndyCar career, it's clear that many deeply respect him, the graphic courtesy of Andretti Global. Marco Andretti's statement reads as this: "To my family, friends, teams, sponsors and fans who have genuinely supported me for the last 30 years in motorsports, I want to thank you for allowing me the privilege to continue our family's passion on the racetrack. I've had some really fun times behind the wheel in a lot of different types of racing cars. A lot of great memories as well, mostly at the Indy 500. Today, I am announcing my retirement from motor racing and the Indianapolis 500. That totals 20 starts at the Speedway, which I feel so fortunate to be able to say. That is ranked 12th all time. Not bad for a 38-year-old. I am proud of my overall stats at the Indy 500. I had 6 very legitimate shots at victory with Andretti Autosport and ended up with 20% top 3 finishes at the Speedway. It feels accomplishing to me to be able to retire having more podium finishes than my father Michael and the same as my grandfather Mario at the biggest race in the world. I will never forget the rare circumstance of getting to race my dad in the closing laps for the win there, the pressure of participating in a dramatic bump day in 2011 and to a pole position in 2020. That is what the Indianapolis 500 produces, extremes on both ends. That is why I love and appreciate it so much. I am very much at peace with the next chapter in my life. I'm dedicating 3 decades to the sport. I'll be prioritizing most of my time on being a great father to my daughter, Maria, and attending to my other business ventures. I am also coming out with a memoir about my life called Defending the Dynasty, or Dynasty, whichever dialect you would prefer there. Details coming soon on that. 2006 to 2025, competing at the top level of North American motorsport is and has been an honor for me, even in the tough times. That is where I can look back and say I have made my best progress in life as a man. Learning to navigate very difficult dynamics at times and others doubting me made me realize that my opinion of myself is the one that should matter the most. Lastly, a special thank you to a lot of people I respect in motor racing for the kind words about my driving, work ethic, and a true character. Steady's going. Won't feel the same. We're losing another Andretti. It's down now. They're just with the Andretti Racing now. But Kobe, starting with you, what will you remember the most from Marco Andretti's racing career?
Wow, what a career it's been for Marco Andretti, and as you mentioned, Josh, I know he didn't accomplish as much as he had probably wanted to in his career, but look, I've been looking at his timeline on social media on X all throughout the afternoon, and you just see the video tributes, just coming in from lots of people, from his former teammates to peers in the paddock. You had Roger Penske, even saw Rubens Barrichello leave him a special message. It shows you how deeply respected Marco Andretti, just wasn't just as a competitor, but also as a person as well. But Marco, he's had to deal with a lot his entire racing career, coming from one of the most prestigious families in all of motorsports. If you're the grandson of the great Mario Andretti or the son of Michael Andretti, there's going to be a lot of pressure on you, to live up to the Andretti name, and that had to be a lot of pressure on him. And a lot of drivers, across motorsports, come from racing families, especially the iconic ones, know what he's going through. Graham Rahal left him a tribute video, and one of the first things that come out of Graham's mouth, Graham said that he understood what Marco went through, with Graham being the son of Bobby Rahal, and knowing, what the Rahal names mean, what the Andretti name means, and if you had that name, you're behind the wheel of the car, you're expected, to live up to what your father did, or what your grandfather, did in the past. Yeah, so for the first Indy 500, that was obviously, a really remarkable memory there. You think the young 19-year-old rookie Marco Andretti is going to come out and win the Indianapolis 500 in his very first attempt, only to have his heart broken by Sam Hornish. And we talk about the Andretti curse, a lot of the Speedway, and unfortunately, hate that Marco wasn't able to break that curse, because it seems like the Andrettis have always had a great opportunity to win that race, but whenever it seems too good to be true, it usually is, and something goes wrong. And I agree with what Marco said. Over the years, he has had a few good opportunities to win this race, but it just wasn't meant to be. And he just had rotten luck in this year's race. His final career IndyCar start, he didn't even I don't even think he got to complete a full lap, under speed, because he was involved in that first, well, not the first crash, but the first crash was obviously Scott McLaughlin crashing on the pace laps. But once the race actually got going, he was involved in that first crash in the first couple of corners, which is really unfortunate to see, Marco's career end in that manner. And all in all, I don't think Marco has anything to be ashamed of. Yeah, he wasn't able to, win a bunch in races. IndyCar wasn't able to win the granddaddy of them all, the Indianapolis 500, even become an IndyCar champion. But at the end of the day, he still, made a lot of friends, that he'll have for the rest of his life, and created a lot of memories, that he'll be telling his daughter about when she's old enough to understand, and his grandchildren in the future if he has some. And one other thing I wanted to bring up about Marco Andretti, he was very impressive in wet weather conditions. Like if that was like one thing that Marco Andretti was really good at, it was in wet conditions. And I remember that race, a handful of years ago on the streets of Detroit when they were still racing at Belle Isle. I think the track was wet, but Marco was on slicks, and we were wondering like, what on earth is he doing? And it was just, really remarkable to see the amount of car control, he had, under those treacherous conditions. So so Marco definitely had a lot of skill, when it comes to car control and all that. And I'm also moving forward, with the Indianapolis 500 in the future, I'm gonna miss people asking one question at the beginning of every month of May: is it Marco's year? That's the one thing I'm really gonna miss, because that was the one question that people ask every single year when the calendar turned from April to May: is it Marco's year?
Two things for me on Marco, and you mentioned, Josh, the series that he ran in. One that you forgot: A1 Grand Prix.
Oh yeah!
In the final year of A1 Grand Prix, he had 10 starts for Team USA. Let me just bring this back up again. Hold on 2 seconds. Should have done this before I started speaking. 10 starts: Chengdu, Sepang, Taupo, Kyalami, and Portimao, with a best of third in the feature race at Sepang in that final year of A1 Grand Prix. So just to have an Andretti name in A1 GP was cool. Unsurprising for regular viewers of this show that I brought up an A1 Grand Prix reference. The other thing I'll remember, apart from the 2006 finish, was that pole lap at the Speedway in 2020. And of course, 2020 was the COVID 500. And the videos that were doing the rounds and the image of the people that were in the gap between the grandstands between turns 1 and 2 that could get there, locals that had rocked up at the Speedway to watch qualifying, the small group of people going crazy because Marco Andretti was on pole at the 500. That it just was cool, really, really cool. It's a shame that the curse was never scrubbed from the record. Marco never got the chance. Of course, he was so close in 2006, meters from getting it done before Hornish pipped him, as you said, Kobe. So yeah, real shame that that never came off, because it would have been just after all those years for Marco to finally break through. But it's a shame that that was announced today, and many happy days in retirement. I'm sure he'll be getting behind the wheel of something, even if it is just for fun, and perhaps he'll be in the back of a Formula One garage in the Cadillac days coming forward with his granddad. Of course, with Mario down there. So at future Grand Prix next season, maybe we'll see him in a Formula One paddock. But chapeau, Marco Andretti. Congratulations on a stellar career.
Absolutely. And I think it's going to be a sorry sight next year not to have him on the grid for the Indy 500. Okay, let's go back over to Matt White then for the latest with the grid EPI update.
Thank you, Josh. And something different for the Grid Endurance Performance Index for you this week, because we had no scoring races this past weekend. And we usually do the rundown of what happened and who won. So there isn't much to talk about in terms of that. So we're going to do something slightly different. We have only 8 races left to score from in the Grid EPI of 2025. So let's give you a refresh of how the standings are through week 32. And Ollie Gray, the European Le Mans Series champion, week 31, sorry, I got my numbers wrong. He and his teammate Esteban Masson are top of the tree in the Grid Endurance Performance Index. And as Ollie has a half-point lead over Esteban Masson there. That's how the top 10 stands going into this weekend, which features 2 events, 3 races. The finale of Super GT, which is at Motegi, and the finale of GT World Challenge Australia, which is in New Zealand at Hampton Downs. So 3 races to score from this weekend. We'll make some change on the leaderboard, especially with Super GT. Guys, we had some Super GT guys in the top 10 for a lot of this season and challenging last year as well. But it looks like Ollie Gray has got one hand and maybe 2 fingers of the other on the Grid EPI trophy for 2025. So what we thought we'd do, because there's no races to talk about from the weekend, is to tell you a few stats and figures from this year. And we'll start with the highest driver in the leaderboard who has the lowest number of starts. And that is 18th placed young Italian Valerio Rinicella. who has only started 4 races in grid EPI terms this year because he's only 18 and he's been doing Euro Cup 3, which is below FIA Formula 3 in terms of the single-seater ladder, but he did get in the European Le Mans Series at the start of the year. So he's 18th on the leaderboard, as you may have seen on the graphic before, on 11.94. And remember, Ollie Gray is at the top with just under 17 points to his name. The most starts of the year there have been 144 races scored in the EPI this year. Maro Engel is top of the start list. Of those 144 scoring races, he started 41 of them. He's been the busiest man in motorsport pretty much all season. He's 77th on the leaderboard and has a score of 8.53. Next up on the chart is scorers in all of the top 10 positions. So a win, a second, a third, a fourth. There are 2 people that have done that. Lucas Auer is one of them. He is 78th on the leaderboard with a score of 8.51, has scored at least 1 place finish in all of the top 10 places across his races in IMSA, DTM, and GT World Challenge Europe this season. The only other man to do it is former Porsche Carrera North American Cup champion from last year, Loic Hartog, the Dutchman. He is 212th on the leaderboard and has a score of 5.68. Another young Dutchman going places in motorsport. Haven't we heard that one before? The big new kind of person to shine a spotlight on, apart from Ollie Gray, who's top of the championship, is this man, South African Kelvin van der Linde. He is 8th in the standings. He has 8 wins to his name this season. He is the highest on the win list. 13.45 is his grid EPI score. He has 8 race victories, 14 podiums, that's the most, and he also is top of the bonus points category, which is generally points scored in long distance races. He's got 5 bonus points to his name for the year for wins at Indianapolis, Suzuka. He won at Bathurst in the 12 hour as well, in all of the Intercontinental GT Challenge races pretty much. And he is, as the graphic shows, the champion of that particular championship and the GT World Challenge Europe Sprint Cup champion, along with his teammate Charles Weerts, who is 3rd in the EPI. One final thing to finish, with association with our other show, the Women in Motorsport show, we thought we'd give you a brief breakdown of the female racers in the grid EPI. And of course, Jamie Chadwick is the highest placed of them, and there you can see the positions on screen. She's 11th because her European Le Mans Series exploits, of which she has won 3 races, have catapulted her just outside the top 10, and the European Le Mans Series LMP2 category scores much higher than any of the other bits and pieces. The Iron Dames are in there: Sarah Bovey, Michelle Gatting, Celia Martin, all sprinkled through the 500s. Lilo Adu's got a couple of victories to her name as well in WEC and GT World Challenge. Not GT World Challenge, and European Le Mans Series in the GT category. Renee Gracie from Australia, 2nd on the female list. She's had a couple of wins to her name in the AM category of GT World Challenge Australia. Jamie Chadwick, though, of course, shining a big light on all of them with her huge score compared to everybody else. So we thought we'd bring you something different in the EPI slot this week. Back to normality next week, excuse me, with, as I mentioned, finales and trophies to hand out in Japan at Motegi for Super GT and in New Zealand at Hampton Downs for GT World Challenge, Australia's first adventure overseas. It's not too far away to New Zealand, but their first visit outside of Australia for a championship round. That is coming up this weekend. We'll tell you about what happened in those races and how it's affected the score in the EPI segment on the show next week. Now it's time to hand over to Kobe. Me and Josh are going to have a slight rest. He's got more of the news from the week, and there is plenty.
Yeah, Matt, there is plenty. And we're actually going to start off with news that just broke 3 minutes ago from the Repco Supercars Championship, which is a surprising thing. So I'm going to read straight from the press release, word for word. Grove Racing today announces that team principal David Cauchi will take a new opportunity at the conclusion of the 2025 Supercars Championship season, following 4 successful years with the team. So the team principal for Penrite Racing will leave the team, despite the great increase of performance we've seen from them in the last few years. Able to sign Matt Payne, and Kai Allen. Those 2 young guns are doing a really great job right now leading that organization, as they've become more competitive over the years. So this is quite a surprise to the entire Supercars paddock that David Cauchi is going to be leaving this organization. And he says, in a quote, he said, "The past 4 years with Grove Racing have been some of the most rewarding of my career. To play a part in the team's growth and to celebrate a Bathurst win together is something I always be proud of. After a lot of discussion with Steve and Brenton Grove, I feel the timing is right to take on a new opportunity beyond 2025. The team is in a fantastic place and well positioned for the future. I'm looking forward to finishing the season strongly. Before starting my next chapter, I'm extremely grateful to the entire Grove family for the trust and support they've shown me throughout this journey." So that was a quote from David Cauchi, right now the current team principal of Penrite Racing. So whoever's got him for next year, that is a massive signing, because he really played a major role in helping that team become one of the top contending teams in Supercars with two of the young guns, Matt Payne and Kai Allen. And now on to the rest of the headlines that were actually scripted for this show. Following his injury and surgery, following the Indonesian Grand Prix, 2025 MotoGP World Champion Marc Marquez has been ruled out for the remainder of the season. Recently, Marquez visited his doctors in Madrid, Spain for a checkup, and they determined that his right shoulder blade won't be healed in time for him to return to MotoGP competition this year. So the Ducati factory rider will miss the final 2 race weekends in Portugal and Valencia, including the test day at Circuit Ricardo Tormo. However, his medical team confirmed that the coracoid fracture and ligament injuries are healing properly after surgery, which is the most important part. But Marquez will have to spend the next 4 weeks with his right arm completely immobilized before he begins the rehabilitation process. The Ducati factory team general manager, Luigi Deligna, said they knew the chances of Marquez returning this year were very low. Nevertheless, they support this decision from Marquez's medical team and are convinced that it's in everyone's best interest not to risk anything. Photo courtesy of Ducati. 2025 Cars Tour champion Landon Lewis will run part-time next year in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. Lewis will drive for Nice Motorsports with hopes of following in the footsteps of past Cars Tours champion Josh Berry, Carson Kroppel, and Brendan Butterbean Queen by going from being a local short track racer to big time in NASCAR during his championship winning season in the Cars Tour. Lewis won 4 times at Ace Speedway, North Wilkesboro Speedway, Anderson Motor Speedway, and Florence Motor Speedway. Lewis also has the pleasure of being mentored by a pair of NASCAR legends in Kevin Harvick and Ron Hornaday Jr. Both men had positive things to say about the 19-year-old from Ocean Isle Beach, North Carolina. Harvick said he initially had no plans to run his super late model full-time, but given the type of person that Landon Lewis is, he felt like he needed to, expand to a full-time program because his young driver really needed this opportunity, while Hornaday Jr. said nobody deserves this opportunity but needs more than Lewis, because you don't see many young drivers come along these days with this level of talent, focus, and competitive fire, and just his overall work ethic, what he's willing to do to make it as a race car driver at the highest levels of stock car racing. Nice Motorsports CEO Cody Efall said the team is always trying to find the next young talent with potential to be a future star in the sport, and they believe Landon Lewis can be that guy who can put their team back in the spotlight as weekly contenders. Lewis said he looks forward to 2026 and what he expects to be a year of learning as he adapts to how the trucks drive and building chemistry with the team. Photo courtesy of Nice Motorsports. Front Row Motorsports re-signed Zane Smith to a multi-year contract extension. Smith will remain in the number 38 Ford and continue building on some of their successes from this year. Last season, Smith spent his rookie year in the NASCAR Cup Series with Spire Motorsports on loan as a Trackhouse Racing development driver. However, after struggling as a rookie and Trackhouse choosing Shane Van Gisbergen for their 3rd full-time entry, Smith was released by Trackhouse and returned home to Front Row, the same team he won the Truck Series title with back in 2022. Smith said despite having an up-and-down 2025 season, he feels like they're in a great position to hit the ground running in 2026. Graphic courtesy of Front Row Motorsports. Sports car racing driver Nico Veroni will compete in Formula 2 next year. Veroni signed with Van Amersfoort Racing, putting his sports car racing career on pause to get on the road to F1. This year, he was a Corvette factory driver, running the IMSA Michelin Endurance Cup races in GTD Pro with the Pratt Miller Motorsports Group, while driving for Proton competition, their Porsche 963 and the FIA World Endurance Championships hypercar class. However, he does have some open wheel racing experience, which is helpful to lean on as he prepares, for the postseason test in Abu Dhabi. Team principal Brad Joyce said stepping into F2 will be a challenge, but he feels like Veroni will adapt quickly to the new environment, given his talent and technical understanding. Graphic courtesy of Van Amersfoort Racing. With Jack LeBrot departing the team at the end of the 2025 Repco Supercars Championship season, Erebus Motorsport is promoting its Super 2 driver Job Stewart to replace him in a number 9 Chevrolet. The 21-year-old has a long history with Erebus after signing with them as a development driver in the Erebus Academy at age 13. And now he'll drive for them in the main game in 2026. But in 2022, he spent time in the Toyota 86 Series and won the Super 3 title in 2023 before moving up to Super 2 last year, with his top highlight being a win at Mount Panorama and a podium at Sandown. This year, while he still competes in Super 2, he got to drive in the Supercars Enduros alongside current Erebus rookie driver Cooper Murray. The two young drivers made headlines in the Bathurst 1000 by putting together a pair of spectacular drives, with the number 99 Chevrolet in contention to win the great race late until contact with James Golden ended the Bathurst Cinderella story. Stewart said Erebus has been his home since he was a kid, which makes going full-time with them all these years later really special. Photo courtesy of Erebus Motorsport. And after running part-time earlier this year, ex-Formula 2 driver Juan Manuel Correa will step up to full-time in the next competition in 2026. Correa will be a part of a 2-car program for Cusick Morgan Motorsports. He brings experience from F2, F3, and sports car racing, and only his third career start in Indy Next. Correa finished on the podium in Detroit. Correa said his introduction to Indy Next in 2025 fueled his desire to become a top competitor in the series and ultimately climb to the NTT IndyCar Series. Graphic courtesy of QC Morgan Motorsports. Ed Carpenter Racing announced a new partnership with Cape Motorsports and J. Howard Racing. So all three teams are going to join forces to create a new ladder system and a direct pathway to the NTT IndyCar Series starting in 2026. So here's what it's going to look like in the Indy Next Series. Cape Motorsports is going to field 2 cars, and then also J. Howard Driver Development Team. They're going to be in an alliance with ECR in the USF Pro 2000 Championship. And given this new partnership, the teams will be able to collaborate to provide technical support, testing opportunities for young drivers, and career development for engineers and mechanics. And all of these entries in Indy Next and USF Pro 2000, they're going to carry the Ed Carpenter Racing IndyCar colors on their entries. So this will be a great opportunity to find the next talents, whether it's drivers or on the team personnel side, to try to get them up to IndyCar. Graphic courtesy of Ed Carpenter Racing. And next month on November 17th, be sure to check out the newest NASCAR docuseries on NASCAR's YouTube channel. It's called Rising, and in this new docuseries, you're going to be able to see 3 young Chevrolet drivers, follow them all throughout the 2025 NASCAR season, and see their journey of like what they do on and off the track and represent the NASCAR Cup Series. You can see them there in the graphic. They'll be following Carson Hocevar throughout his journey in the Cup Series this year. And then Xfinity, we talked about him earlier tonight. Jesse Love, he's going to be that featured driver. And then the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, they're going to be following Roger Caruth, as he looks to move up the NASCAR ladder, as he will be racing next year for Junior Motorsports in the NASCAR Raleigh Auto Parts Series. Graphic courtesy of NASCAR. And now moving on to IMSA, Cadillac announces driver lineups for the 2026 IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship season. And Wayne Taylor Racing is going to be back with 2 Cadillacs full-time. And at number 10, you'll see the return of Ricky Taylor and Philippe Albuquerque, and Will Stevens is going to be on for the Enduros. And at number 40, Jordan Taylor, Louis Delatraz. Both of them are back. And Colton Herta, to go along with his Cadillac F1 test duties and Formula 2 program with High Tech Grand Prix, Colton's going to be doing some of the IMSA Michelin Endurance Cup races as well. He's going to be running the Rolex 24 at Daytona, the 12 Hours of Sebring, and the Motul Petit Le Mans at the end of the year. The number 40, Wayne Taylor Racing Cadillac. And then you move on to Action Express Racing, and it's the exact same driver lineup that they had this past season. Same car that won the last 2 races at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the Battle in the Brick 6-hour race, and then the Petit Le Mans 10-hour race at Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta. So full-time, you'll see Jack Aiken, Earl Bamber back, and then for the Enduros, you'll see the Mercedes F1 reserve driver, Frederick Vesti, get another opportunity to compete at the endurance races. And the graphic and photo courtesy of Wayne Taylor Racing and Action Express. And we're also going to see the 2025 Formula 3 champion, Rafael Kamara. He's going to be graduating to the Formula 2 championship next year with Invicta Racing. And during his Formula 2 in his Formula 3 championship season, Rafael Kamara ended up winning 4 times. He could finish on a podium 5 times, and then he scored 5 pole positions as well. And he locked up the championship in Hungary with a full round to go. And when you look at the Scuderia Ferrari Academy drivers record, across the single seater so far, it's just remarkable. And Victor Rexon provided some excellent statistics. So as in the junior categories up to now, Rafael Kamara, 24 wins, 57 podiums, 26 poles, 104 top 10s, and all of that in 137 single seater starts to date. And that's why the team has put in the press release that Kamara is one of the most sought after young talents in motorsports, as he has shown his full potential. And in the press release, Kamara said that, very proud to be joining Invicta Racing for his 4th season in Formula 2. And he said that it's a huge honor to follow in the footsteps, of past Formula 3 champions, Gabriel Bortoleto and Leonardo Fornaroli, on the next step in the Formula 1 ladder system, graphic courtesy of Invicta Racing. And then some news that broke early this morning, Premier Racing announced that it's going to be parting ways with Richie Stanaway in the Repco Supercars Championship season, effective immediately. And then the team in a statement, they're saying that after discussions with Stanaway after the Gold Coast 500, they decided that it was in their best interest for him to step away from the team with immediate effect. And they said, as previously outlined before the Gold Coast, Stanaway was expected to depart the team after the 2026 season, following the decision not to take up their option on his contract for 2026. And so with Richie Stanaway out, we'll see one of their drivers that they've signed for next year in the seat. The team is expected to announce it soon. So when we get to the next round at Sandown, it's either going to be Jaden Ojeda or Declan Frazier taking over for Richie Stanaway in that Premier Air Chevrolet Camaro. And the team thanked Richie for his time with the team and wished him well in his future endeavors. Photo courtesy of Premier Air Racing. And since we've had so much news this week and not enough time to include everything on the show in depth, I'm gonna take a few moments to look at some of the other headlines that we have, but just didn't have enough time to include it all in full. So starting in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, Sam Hunt Racing announced its 2026 driver lineup in what will be called the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. Dean Thompson will return to the number 26 Toyota and will have a new teammate as the organization expands to 2 full-time entries. Harrison Burton, who left AM Racing, will move over to Sam Hunt to drive the number 24 Toyota next year. And we talked about him earlier tonight. Richard Childress Racing re-signed Jesse Love to continue driving the number 2 Chevrolet in the NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series in 2026, with primary sponsor Wheeling Engineering back on board for another season. And after another successful year in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, Tricon Garage signed a new multi-year contract extension with Toyota to continue being the flagship operation in the Truck Series. And Lane Riggs is also going to be returning to Front Row Motorsports in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series as well on a brand new contract extension. And after previously announcing that he would run part-time next year in the number 1 Chevrolet for Junior Motorsports, sharing the ride with Connor Zilisch, Carson Kroppel will now return to the team full-time as the driver and team co-owner Dale Earnhardt Jr. announced this afternoon. We don't know what it's going to look like yet, but it seems like Kroppel will bounce between, several JRM cars throughout the year to complete the 2026 NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series season. And then you also got William Sawalich. He wasn't cleared to return to racing this week in that Phoenix either, so his 2025 season is over as he continues to recover from concussion-like symptoms after, crashing hard at Talladega. And so with William Sawalich still recovering from those symptoms, modified tour legend Justin Bonsignor, he's going to be back to replace him for the 2nd consecutive week in the number 18 Toyota for Joe Gibbs Racing in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. And that's all of the headlines I have. So I'll catch up, on the chat right quick before I throw it over to Matt. Adam says
in a second.
We'll look at Adam's comments first. He says that supercar schedule for 2026 looks quite good. Yeah, Adam, real excited to see, how everything goes next year in supercars, especially with all of the changes happening, with silly season and so many drivers going to different teams. It's going to be really exciting to see what the pecking order looks like for next year. And then Adam also says that those 2 Cadillac teams in IMSA look incredible. Yeah, not many changes there. Basically have the same driver lineups and all of that. And then also great, obviously great to see Colton, get to continue to play in IMSA while he's focused on his F1 and F2 duties. And then Denver says the opening supercars round in Sydney Motorsports Park, they look like they're having free entry on Friday night for the debut of the Toyota Super Race. Yeah, that'd be really exciting. Denver, I know a lot of people in Australia are excited, to see the new Toyota GR Supra, debut in the Supercar Series. And you're seeing, Toyota Australia, really make his mark in the series. And now I'll throw to Matt for Hots and Knots.
Well, Adam and Denver have beat me to it because I was going to say I've got more news and it's the Supercars calendar. But let's bring you the quick footnotes on it. It will start at Sydney Motorsports Park on the 20th to the 22nd of February next year. And as Denver mentioned, the Friday, if you're in the Sydney area, you can get into Sydney Motorsports Park for absolutely $0 dues. Nothing. Free, nada. And watch some Supercars and support action. It is a free day for the fans to see the Toyota Supras and et al. In action at the Sydney 500 to start the year. Then they go to Melbourne for the Grand Prix. Double trip to New Zealand, of course, next year. As we know, they go back to Taupo, and then we're going to Christchurch, Tasmania. Perth then moves. They go to Darwin and then Townsville and then Perth. Now, on the press release and in this blurb on the app, the Supercars app, which I've just read while Cody was doing the news, not a single mention of whether they'll be going back to Barbagallo or the proposed street track. But the Perth date is locked in first weekend of August. Where? We're not sure. The Sprint Cup then finishes at Queensland Raceway as it did this year, 23rd of August. Then we go Enduro season as we have this year with the Bend 500, second weekend of September, and Bathurst in its regular slots on the 11th of October, which will be on Roval weekend yet again. That's very annoying. Then it is playoff time with the Gold Coast 500, the Sandown 500, and the Adelaide Grand Final on the 3rd to the 6th of December. And as we talked about earlier, perhaps some more NASCAR people going to do Supercars Series finale next year. And quickly to just also add on, the Dunlop Series rounds for next year will be Sydney, they will be Darwin, Perth, Bathurst, as always, and Sandown and Adelaide. So that is your Supercars calendar wrapped up for next year. If you want to go and check out all the dates for yourself, it is all on Supercars social media. Just a quick mention, we're going to do pick a winner this week on the show because all we have coming up is, of course, the NASCAR Series finale at Phoenix. So get your picks in for the race at Phoenix using using the hashtag pick a winner. Josh has gone early and he's going with Denny Hamlin. I don't know. I just don't think he's going to do it. There's something is going to trip him up.
No, it is you. Sorry, it is you. Okay, Hots and Knots. What have you got for us?
Well, I don't have many hots. I have a litany of knots. So have you got any hots?
Stunning start to Mexico.
Yeah. Apart from Lando's great drive and Ollie Behrman, that slipped my mind.
That's the only two. Stunning start, best opening lap of the season because everything went nuts. I've never knocked my mic shield off mid-commentary before, but I did that during the opening lap of the Grand Prix because everyone just went everywhere. That was fantastic. Good motor. Dixon, yeah, I'd agree there. Jake Dixon winning, which is absolutely fantastic. His last win for MotoGP. Moto 2 in the MotoGP paddock. Moto 2 was better. MotoGP, predictably unpredictable, I think is the safest thing to say.
Yeah, seems that way at the moment.
I really sort of enjoyed Mexico more. I thought Mexico was a top tier race, and now it's definitely feeling like 2007. 4 to go, +2 sprint. It's got that feeling back that we're going to be in for a good title fight.
Yeah, pretty much a reset, isn't it? Between the 1 point between the McLarens, Verstappen's in there. I think I saw if Max wins everything left, as long as there's a McLaren in second for all of those, one of the McLaren drivers will still win the championship. So Max still needs a bit of help in terms of McLaren dropping points to Ball or each other, because I feel like there might be a drop in play for one of them or the other between now and the end of the season. But Brazil is next weekend, so it should be good.
Knots. Lot of knots.
Should we start with the Grand Prix?
Formula One, yeah.
Formula Uno, yes.
Max penalty free again, shall we say?
Yeah, I kind of understand why he didn't get one for turn one, lap one.
I got that, but I don't understand why he didn't get one for the rest of them. Still don't know why.
He used Lewis as a brake.
Yep.
It wasn't even noted, that contact, I don't think.
Wasn't. Hang on.
You've got the list.
I've got Megan's notes. Hamilton leaving the track and gaining an advantage, 10-second penalty. Nothing about Verstappen. Leaving the track, gaining advantage, no further action. Nothing about Lewis and Hamilton. Oh, incident involving turn one, incident involving Hamilton and Verstappen, noted for causing a collision. No further action, lap 9. But no, the one down at turn 3 and 4, nothing happened. That was Lewis only.
He cut the. And then he crashed into bumped into Lewis. Then he cut turn 3. I can't remember if that was in the same incident or another one. Again,
2 different ones, I think.
The Hamilton stuff. I thought it was harsh. 10 seconds for Lewis. Yeah. But from what Crofty was saying and all the stuff that had come out, they were clearly there was a defined routes to get back on the racetrack.
He did avoid it, yeah.
That VSC at the end was a bit meh. Spoiled the end of the race, but we have to go with safety, I guess.
It comes in handy that I'm dating a Marshall now, to even when she said, what was that for? Because you couldn't shoot, Nina was on commentary, and he was like, well, we can't see where it is. And then when we found out after that it was behind the barrier, it still makes no sense why that came out. Yeah, it's like throw the yellow for whatever reason. It doesn't make sense.
I think because the car caught fire after it had come to a stop, that's perhaps sounds like why there was a virtual. But we never got a clear shot of it in the TV pictures.
No, never did.
You could have persuaded some people's arguments by showing what it was.
The Marshalls running across the track was also not for me. A big not. That was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Why did they come from across the track instead of up from turn 1 exit, where they could have walked down, picked it up, and walked back across safely? Why come across the track?
Sort of turn 3, all the way across that big grass.
Very bizarre, very stupid, and very nearly cost 2 Marshals' lives. I was very angry about that, actually. Very, very angry.
Yeah, that was a bit shocking to see, especially at that level. Shouldn't be happening. Not Manuel Gonzalez falling out of Moto 2 and perhaps falling out of the championship now that with that crash, it's let Diego Moreira back in.
I think Gonzalez is gone. Yeah, I think Gonzalez lost it personally, mate. I think that's it.
I agree. And that would then put Moreira up as he's already signed for next year to go to MotoGP, and that would inevitably put him up as champion, but we've still got 2 rounds to go. Not also, let me just bring this back up on my phone. I've been preparing to get this ready. Let me just reopen my Chrome. Things that we talked about on this show before over previous weeks is Felipe Massa taking the FIA to court for 2008. That case has started today. James Elson has done a great piece on motorsportmagazine.com about it. Let me just find the quote that I wanted to read. Adverts. Oh, I need to refresh it. That's very annoying. Hold on. Basically, there was a quote which I now can't find because I haven't signed up to this and I can't read the whole story properly, which is very annoying. Websites. Massa's driving throughout the season was more to blame for him for not winning the championship, basically, than Nelson Piquet being told to crash on purpose in Singapore. Was basically the quote from the defense today. Which just
so much. Yeah. 5 or 6 times spinning at Silverstone, fuel rig, Germany, spinning Australia, beaching in Malaysia.
Engine blow up with 2 laps to go in Hungary.
Yeah, hitting Hamilton, getting a drive-through penalty in Fuji. Spa was a nightmare. Yeah, Spa was a real nightmare for him, even though he won Spa, but only won it because he came in. Yeah, but he shouldn't have won Spa, so he got gifted that back. Massa should never have been champion that year, and I stand by that. Even with the crash gate, it was never going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know. I really can't understand why he's wasting all the. Who's talked Felipe Massa into this? They need It's a hung drawing.
Money.
Frankly.
Money.
Wasting
It's
people's
money.
time and money.
One thing I will say about knots, Jose Antonio Ueda and Noah Delvella as well. The horrible accident on the Moto E warm lap in Malaysia. Positive signs that both are stable and out of critical condition. That is the best news possible. It's going to be a long recovery for both of them. Less so for Jose Antonio Ueda. But it was a nasty accident. Both had to be taken to medical, via the medical helicopter to hospital. Delayed everything by an hour. We don't care about that. Moto 3 race should not have happened, but they did it anyway. That was wrong. But the great news is that both are on the road to recovery and are out of serious condition. And a happy birthday to Jose Antonio Ueda, who turns as well his birthday today. So not the best of situations, but both are on road to okay. Yeah. Not nice covering 2 hours on air.
No, indeed so. That was horrible. Denver says hot. The airtime that supercars were producing at the Gold Coast through the chicane and Chaz Mostert sweeping the weekend. Looks like it's Feeney versus Chazzy in the showdown in supercars, which is excellent because we need someone to take it Triple Eight, frankly. And what's not to piggy off on the back of that before I read Adams, which is let me do Adams first. Hot Byron getting the job done in Martinsville. Yeah, brilliant job from Willie B at the weekend. Pole led the most laps, won all the stages, won the race. Supercars at the Gold Coast. What's not from Supercars at the Gold Coast is the photographers that got injured on Saturday. Yeah, when Brody Kostecki harpooned the barrier in qualifying when his splitter went under the front wheels and he couldn't steer. Horrible. One with a broken foot. There you go. What's not Paul in turn 3 getting injured with a Brody crash. Some of the photography, Mark Walker, shout out to you. His stuff is just amazing from the weekend, but they are risking getting injured for our pleasure from some of the shots and those guys that got
great shots.
One at the weekend. We wish them well. Quickly, I think we Matthew, hello, good evening to you. What's not is Matthew Owens' right ankle. Because he's not in a good way. He fell off his porch on Sunday after the race. And so best of luck and lots of ice packs to you, my friend. Can I just say the overarching knot is Ty Dillon, Chris Rice, and all of Colleague. Is this sour grapes?
So, yeah, I think it would be. So take it Matthew is now commentating the next race, foot up James Hunt style.
Yes.
Yeah, good. That'll be fun. I look forward to listening back to your guys' coverage after the race then. On Sunday, and hearing Matt just going, "Bring me the paracetamol."
Quickly before we finish off this segment, I think we, as in me and Josh, wanted to have a quick debate on something that came out this week.
Very quick,
because the British Touring Cars have announced that next season they are going to have 4 races across the weekend. One of them is going to be on Saturday, and it is basically going to be a qualifying race to set the grid for race 1. Is this in place of qualifying?
No.
Right.
So it's practice. The current rumor is it's practice in the morning for an hour and a half, so double the time.
Yeah.
And then we'll have a qualifying, which will be a 30-minute session. Yeah, right about there. And then we'll have the qualifying race in the afternoon. So qualifying would set the grid for the qualifying race. And I think qualifying would also set the grid for race 2. And then the qualifying race would set it for race 1. And then it's reverse of qualifying. It's reverse of race 2 result for race 3. That's how it's going to work. That's the early thing. Confusing me, but I think it's good because of all the series that could work with a sprint race, the touring cars is it because you have 20-minute races which are crash, bang, wallop, the best entertainment you can see on television, and now we're getting an extra race on a Saturday for qualifying. Brilliant. I like that, but only because Saturdays trackside are so boring ever since we lost the support action. There's like one race and it's a Porsche and it's like, no, it's after qualifying. Everyone leaves. Everyone's busy. No one watches. And I've been at the track literally going like, I'm tired now. Let's just have a beer and just talk. So no one ever watches it. They need something to make Saturday worthwhile. They needed something to hook the YouTube audience in order to get it worldwide because now it streams on YouTube globally. They've got it with this sprint race. They've got it took in. I think it's a good idea, and that's the only time I'm ever going to say sprints is a good idea because I think it could generally work in the touring cars because it's going to be the same distance as a race, and it's going to be very, very entertaining. I'm going to like it, and they might tweak the format going forward for the other two races. So the other three races on the Sunday. So we might have, for instance, race 1 moves to the Saturday, and then race 2 and 3 on the Sunday are longer. So that we might see that change come through. So this is just toying around with the format to see what works.
Under the bottom of the square that I'm sat in, you can't see, my arms are crossed.
Right.
As a person that's watched 640 races in this calendar year, I don't think there's anyone on the planet that's watched more. I'm pretty glad to say that, and I've still got 2 months to get more in. I'm going to go not for more racing. Who is this for? Who is this?
On Saturday.
There's no one at the track on a Saturday. It's not on television.
I know.
It's on YouTube, but it's not on television. So who's it for? All it is for panel beaters and bumper repair shops. This is going to be another cost to the teams because they're touring car drivers, and all they will do is crash into each other.
Yeah, but that's 10 more times a year that they get to do it without affecting the championship. It's fantastic. You tell them that you can go and just fight for a qualifying position, actual door-to-door. They're going to do it. It's going to be fantastic. I really think it's a good idea because we're going to have door-to-door for qualifying. Do you remember the year we did this, where the fastest time in race 1 set the grid for race 2? Do you remember the action we had in the final 5 laps when everybody went to try and get that fastest lap to set the grid, and how fantastic the race was in race 1 at the end? That's what we're going to get in a qualifying race. It's really going to work because you can have everybody pushing flat out on the softest tyres available, the lowest amount of fuel possible, and everyone's just going to take off. There's going to be maximum boost, so everybody gets the Toka, whatever it is now, the hybrid Toka boost. They're all going to have the maximum attacks. They've all got, 15 seconds per lap. They can all use it around. It's unlimited, and you can go for it. This is unhinged touring cars, and that is what I think it's going to be about. Saturday will draw in the viewers again. They need people to come on for the whole weekend. They can't keep losing out to British GT and British Superbikes who have racing on the Saturday. This has to sort of loop back in and say, look, come. Yeah, all the action for the main championship battle, that all happens on the Sunday. But if you want to come and just have a bit of free racing, get yourself in. I think they're even lowering the ticket prices for Saturday to try and make this work. They want to make it work. They want to get people behind, and they desperately need it. Personally, honestly, touring cars on the Sunday, fine, sell out. Touring cars Saturday, nobody's there, as you say. They need to get bums on seats, and this could do it, and I'm happy about it. And that's not just me going for a pass. I've got a pass. So I'm saying this is great because I'm generally excited about the possibility of having 4 races on a weekend when I go down, instead of tootling around after qualifying going, what do we do now? It's brilliant.
At the Brands Hatch finale next season, when the championship is close going into the final weekend between, let's say it's Ingram and Sutton again, and they are fighting on the last lap of a qualifying race on Saturday, and someone gets speared intentionally or by accident, and they're written off for the weekend, that wouldn't have happened in a proper qualifying session. And
but it could have happened in race 1. It could happen in race 1 of the weekend. It could happen. It could happen on the first lap. It could happen in practice.
Well. Yeah. Yes.
Nick Hamilton's car caught fire completely on his own, and he was back racing. 2 weeks later? Anything can happen.
Yeah.
I've never defended sprint races so hard in my life. This is unusual for me.
I'm not. I'm very. This is the first time I've been anti-more racing either. It feels like it. So apart from
can we swap back?
And also get in the bin. Not a fan. It's not often that me and Josh actually disagree quite vehemently on something, which is why I wanted to bring it up. I could have snapped my leg in half, says Matthew, and I wouldn't have missed this weekend of Crown Champions and say goodbye to NASCAR. On USRN, yes. The USRN is our final NASCAR weekend on Mixler. This weekend, me, myself, Matthew, and Seth have done it for the last however long. We're transitioning to YouTube to battle with JBM.
Thanks. It's supposed to be a team up now.
I know, sorry. So, it's going to be a big weekend for the 3 of us at the weekend. And one final note quickly before we go, and this is more parochial, again, for UK stuff. The Autosport International in January at the NEC has been thrown in the fire.
Yeah.
Sorry. This year.
Yeah. Oh, no, hang on a minute. Oh, no, I can now go on holiday. Yay! I can go on holiday. I'm so excited. I'm actually a bit happy about that because I now get a bit of a longer holiday. So fine by me.
It's a shadow of the thing it was in 2007-8. But then again,
they need a year off.
Yeah.
Well,
Reset, refresh, come back.
I told you, it was a bit weird that they gave me the banner. I was like, don't you need this? I was like, no. So now we know why they gave me the big banner. Yeah. Took that all the way back from Birmingham to Grimsby in one night. It was awful long. Oh, God. Still massive as well. Okay. You hotted and knotted out?
I'm hotted and knotted out, but looking very much forward to the weekend at Phoenix to crown some champions. And hopefully they all, well, 2 of the 3, because we're not quite sure about Cup. But let's hope it goes the right way, just for the stuff that's going to happen on social media if it doesn't in the Truck Series and in Xfinity.
Yeah, that is true. That is absolutely true. But I think Hamlin deserves it. I really do. I think he's tried hard this year. He's been a great driver.
Yeah, if anyone wants to know, I'm going with Chase Briscoe. No one's talking about Chase Briscoe. He's going to swoop in and win the whole thing.
Here we go again. So taking a look on our upcoming schedule. Stay tuned for Grid Live pre-race preview the NASCAR season finale. Sunday, Grid Live wrap-up. That's 90 minutes after the NASCAR Cup Series Championship 4 race at Phoenix Raceway. Monday, Grid Encore at 7 p.m. Eastern as we cap into the final ever Xfinity race. Trucks and ARCA West season finale races at Phoenix as well. And might even be coming in for the last show with the boys as well coming in. We're talking about their favourite racing. Now, please continue to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you very much for helping us reach 1,700 subscribers. You can now inch closer to our next milestone of 2,000 subscribers. You can hit the bell icon to get notifications so you always know when we go on the air. And you can follow all of our social media platforms and visit gridnetworktv.com. You can take 5 minutes to invest in the Grid Network through Patreon. You can join Colin, Mark, Michelle, Robin, David, Matthew, and our newest Patreon supporter of Crystal, who all invest in each month in the Grid Network. And we encourage you to join these 5 folks, help us keep us on the air. And once we hit $500 per month, we can afford to send our team to the track more often and continue growing our media outlet. The link to this is in the video description below. And if you want to make a one-time donation, you can click on the Buy Me a Coffee link, get your name on the board, invest as much as you want. Consider buying a specific on-air personality a cup of coffee, and they will thank you on the air. Brian says, hi, Zilich Byron as well. Coming. Brain says, Brian. Brain says, it's brains. It's Halloween. Brains. I'm dying here. I've been up at 7 a.m. for the past 5 odd days and odd sleep schedules and, traveling here, there and everywhere on trains. I am depleted. I need a weekend off. That's coming soon. That's looking forward to that. Yes. By the way, after the F1 Abu Dhabi, I won't be here the following week. I'm on holiday. Well-deserved break. And I think Kobe needs a well-deserved break after this as well coming up, as do you, Matt, as well. Heart and Chaos Part of Brain. Oh, Honeycutt, Campbell and Briscoe. Wow. Whoa.
Yeah, that's
feisty.
Grid Encore next Monday, the final one, is going to be must-watch viewing for us all. Let's just say that.
And Austin Hill Fantasy.
You are indeed.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We'll have to get some messages in for the boys, as a big send-off for them. As Ben is leaving us as full-time pundits. He will come back, though, as guest because he just can't stay away. He'll be nattering about playoffs or folk things or whatever. So don't worry, he'll be there. So for Kobe Lambeth and Matt White from Grid Endurance Performance Index, I'm Joshua Birch. Second to last one more grand finale the week after. It's looking, good. Second to last, we've got more coming in. So for Kobe Lambeth and Matt White from the Grid Endurance Performance Index, I'm Joshua Birch from JP Motorsports. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.